They taught you wrong, my friend. They taught you to smile even when your soul was bleeding. They taught you to stay kind, stay present, stay available, even when your own heart was quietly screaming for help. They told you to always explain yourself, to justify your emotions, to bend, to shrink, to make others feel comfortable, even if it cost you your peace. But let me ask you, who taught you that your peace wasn't sacred? Who convinced you that your worth came from being agreeable, always accessible, always nice? It's time you hear the truth. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Your energy is not a charity. And your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. Because today, something shifts. Today, you stop begging to be understood. You stop over-explaining, over-apologizing, over-giving. Today, you rise into your most dangerous, most powerful, most untouchable self. The version of you that's calm, silent, focused. The version of you they can't reach, not because you're cruel, but because you finally chose you. Let them wonder where you went. Let them feel the silence they once ignored. Let your absence echo louder than your presence ever did, because when you become unreachable, you become unbreakable. Chapter 1. They trained you to be weak. From the very beginning, they programmed you like a machine. Not to think, not to feel, but to comply. To smile when you wanted to scream. To nod when your soul said no. To shrink yourself so others could feel taller. They called it being polite. They wrapped your obedience in pretty words like kindness, humility, respect. But make no mistake, it was never about your peace. It was about control. They taught you to answer every message, to react to every insult, to show up for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. And when you did, they clapped. Not for your strength, but for your weakness, for your predictability. Because that made you easy to manipulate. You became an emotional puppet. Every word someone said pulled your strings. Every look, every text, every silent treatment made you dance for their approval. And here's the hard truth. The world doesn't respect softness it can control. It respects silence it can't read, boundaries it can't cross, minds it can't manipulate. Because this world is full of experts at pushing buttons, at playing games, at controlling outcomes, but they only win when your buttons are still within reach. It's time you pull them back. It's time you become unreadable, unpredictable, untouchable. That's not cruelty, that's survival. Chapter 2. The power of becoming unreachable. Now listen, and I want you to really absorb this. Becoming unreachable is not an escape. It's a declaration. It's not about running away from people. It's about running back to yourself, to your sanity, your self-respect, your energy that has been drained in trying to be everything for everyone. Because for far too long, you were available on demand. Every time someone needed comfort, support, attention, there you were. Not because they deserved you, but because somewhere along the line you were trained to believe that love means sacrificing yourself. You were taught that kindness means accessibility, and worst of all, you believed that explaining yourself would earn you peace. But here's the brutal truth. Explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you is emotional suicide. Every time you tried to justify your feelings, every time you answered that message, even though your gut screamed no, every time you responded just to keep the peace, you were feeding a system that thrives on your weakness. And they knew it. They knew exactly which words to use, which guilt trip to lay on you, which silence would make you react, because you trained them. You gave them the remote control to your emotions, and they've been pressing buttons ever since. But now, that version of you is gone. You see, becoming unreachable isn't about being mean. It's about being in control. It's about emotional mastery. You're not ignoring them because you're heartless. You're ignoring them because you've finally learned, my peace is too expensive to hand over to people who drain it. You don't need to announce your silence. You don't need to defend your distance. You don't need to explain your absence, because your energy is your responsibility. Your mental space is sacred ground, and not everyone deserves access. You're not cold. You're not distant. You're just finally done leaking power. When you become unreachable, you become mysterious. You become unpredictable. You become powerful. You become the one who controls the rhythm of your life. You create boundaries that don't require explanation. You give silence that speaks louder than any justification ever could. And here's the secret nobody tells you. Unreachable people don't need to scream. They don't need to prove anything. Their silence creates more impact than other people's noise. So stop handing out access like it's free. Start treating your presence like a privilege, because not everyone is qualified to sit at your table. And that's not arrogance, that's self-respect. When you become unreachable, you don't lose love. You lose the illusion that love requires suffering. You don't become alone. You become aligned. You don't become heartless. You become selective with your heart. And that, right there, is where your real power begins. Chapter 3. Silence is strategy. There's a reason the most powerful men in the room are usually the quietest, because silence isn't weakness. Silence is power under control. It's presence without desperation. It's confidence without the need to perform. It's a strategy, not an accident. In a world that's addicted to noise, where everyone's screaming to be seen, the one who chooses silence becomes a mystery. And mystery isn't rejection, it's magnetism. It makes people lean in, it makes them wonder, it makes them chase. Because when you stop oversharing, stop reacting, stop explaining, you become unpredictable. And in the game of power, predictability is death. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. They're emotionally available on tap. They give away their thoughts, feelings, energy to anyone who pays attention. But not you. Not anymore. From now on, your silence becomes your shield. You speak less, but say more. You walk in the room, and your calmness commands attention. Not because you shouted for it, but because your stillness speaks louder than their noise. Understand this truth. The less they know about you, the more they want to know. That's how mystery works. That's how magnetism is built. So stop narrating your every move. Stop updating people who never deserved a front row seat to your transformation. You don't owe anyone your story while it's still unfolding. Be rare, be unreadable, be unavailable. Stop being predictable. Stop handing out your energy like it's free candy. Stop giving away pieces of your soul just to be liked or seen. Because the moment you go quiet, they start watching, they start guessing, they start realizing they never really knew you, and that terrifies them. That's not weakness, that's leverage. Chapter 4. Let go to take back control. There comes a moment in life when holding on starts hurting more than letting go. When clinging to what once felt like love now feels like slow poison. And in that moment, you have two choices. Stay loyal to your pain or set yourself free. Let's be honest, you're not really afraid of losing people. You're afraid of losing the version of you that needed them. You're afraid of the silence that comes after the goodbye. But here's what they never told you. That silence, that emptiness, it's not punishment, it's purification. Because you're not losing people, you're liberating yourself from emotional cages you were never meant to live in. You've been holding on to the love that drains you, the job that suffocates your soul, the friendships that feel more like performance than peace, the conversations where you defend your every word like you're on trial. And the longer you grip, the more they grip you back. Not because they're valuable, but because your need for them becomes their power over you. Letting go isn't weakness. It's a weapon. It's how you reclaim your space. It's how you stop begging for crumbs and start building your own feast. It's how you go from emotionally reactive to spiritually untouchable. Because the truth is brutal. The more you hold on, the more you're controlled. Controlled by guilt, controlled by fear, controlled by the illusion that your life will fall apart without them. But Shamim, what if I told you you're not falling apart? You're finally falling into alignment. Alignment with the version of you that doesn't apologize for having needs, shrink to keep someone else comfortable, break just to make others feel whole. Letting go is how you take back the throne of your mind. It's how you stop being emotionally hijacked by every text, every silence, every argument. Because when you stop needing their validation, you start walking in your own power. Validation is an addiction. It makes you dance for approval, seek permission, over-explain your decisions. But when you let that go, you elevate. You stop performing. You stop proving. You start being. No filters, no explanations. Just raw, unapologetic authenticity. And the ones who can't handle your truth, let them go. You were never meant to fit into cages built by people with limited vision. Let go of the temporary to make room for the timeless. Let go of being understood, to be aligned. Let go of being liked, to be free. This is your rebirth. This is the moment you take your power back. Not by fighting, not by begging, but by finally choosing you. Because when you let go, you don't just move on, you rise. Chapter 6. You can't save everyone. Let that sink in. You can love someone with all your heart. You can pray for them, support them, give them every tool, every opportunity, every ounce of your strength. But you cannot save someone who is committed to their own destruction. Some people are not looking for healing. They're looking for attention. Some people don't want solutions. They want sympathy. Some people don't want love. They want control. And trying to rescue them will only drown you. Your empathy is powerful, but it's not a lifeboat for people who are punching holes in the floor. You're not a savior. You're not their missing piece. You're not responsible for fixing what they refuse to even acknowledge is broken. There's a difference between helping someone and carrying them. There's a difference between compassion and codependency. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is step back. Let them fall. Let them feel the consequences. Let them meet themselves. Because healing doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in rock-bottom moments when the soul gets tired of its own chaos, when the mirror becomes unavoidable, when denial cracks just enough for truth to leak in. You can't force that. You can't fast-forward someone's awakening. And you're not a bad person for choosing your peace over their patterns. Let them go. Wish them well. And then, turn your energy inward, because the only person you can save is you. Chapter 6. You can't save everyone. Let's be honest now. You've been carrying weight that was never yours to hold. You've been the listener, the fixer, the healer, the go-to therapist for people who disappear the moment you need a shoulder. You've been everyone's emotional trash bin. They dump their insecurities, their guilt, their chaos, and you absorb it like it's your duty to clean their storm. But here's the hard truth, and it might sting. You can't save everyone. And it's not your job to try. Every time you prioritize someone else's drama over your own peace, every time you bend your boundaries to rescue someone from the consequences of their own choices, you are bleeding energy from your own soul. Your energy is not infinite. Your mental health is not a community donation box. Your time, your heart, your healing journey, these are sacred. Not everyone deserves a backstage pass to your inner world. You must become brutally selective, not out of cruelty but out of self-respect. Because every time you shrink to fit into someone else's comfort zone, every time you downplay your needs just to avoid conflict, every time you silence your truth so someone else won't feel triggered, you are dishonoring your higher self, the part of you that came here to grow, to evolve, to rise. You can love people from a distance. You can care without carrying. You can wish them well without dragging their wounds into your healing space. Understand this. Helping someone is not the same as saving them. You can't save someone who refuses to swim. You can't fix someone who benefits from staying broken. You can't uplift someone who's addicted to their own chaos. And the more you try to fix them, the more you break yourself. Stop. Stop bleeding for people who wouldn't give you a bandage. Stop overextending for people who have never reached back. Stop rescuing people from lessons they need to learn alone. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not wrong for stepping back. You are not cold for finally protecting your peace. So say it with your chest. I can't save you because saving you is costing me. And that's a price you're no longer willing to pay. Chapter 7. Mystery. Calm. Presence. In a world that's constantly screaming for attention, where everyone wants to be seen, heard, validated, be the one who says nothing and still owns the room. Mystery, calm, presence. These are not weaknesses. These are not signs that something is wrong with you. These are your superpowers, your quiet weapons, your inner kingdom that no one gets access to without earning it. They've tried to convince you that silence is awkward, that stillness means you're shy, that being reserved is a flaw. No, the loudest man in the room is usually the most insecure. the one constantly explaining himself, constantly proving himself, constantly performing. That man is tired. That man is fragile. That man is replaceable. But the man who knows the strength of his stillness, the man who doesn't need to speak to be felt, who doesn't need to chase attention because his aura commands it naturally, that man is dangerous. That man is rare. That man is unshakable. You want presence? Then stop giving everyone access. Stop being everywhere all the time trying to prove you're important. Because the truth is, when you're always available, you lose value. When people can predict your every move, they stop respecting you. But when you move in silence, when you protect your energy, when you appear only when you choose, you become unforgettable. Mystery creates magnetism. People are drawn to what they don't fully understand. Your calmness, that inner stillness, it unsettles those who live in chaos. It shakes people who expect you to react, to chase, to explain. And when you don't, they feel your presence even more. So don't dim your silence, don't apologize for being rare, don't explain your peace. Instead, become the man who is felt even in his absence. Be impossible to ignore. Not because you're loud, but because when you do appear, every eye turns, every heart listens, every room shifts. That's presence, that's power, and that's who you were born to be. Chapter 8. From Emotional Slave to Sovereign Man. You've been reacting for so long. To everything. Every insult, every silence, every shift in tone, every delayed reply. You've been on edge, waiting, watching, overthinking, trying to read between the lines, trying to fix everything even when it was never your mess to clean, trying to be the one who keeps the peace even when it costs you your own. And now? Now, when peace finally arrives, it feels unnatural, it feels foreign, because you were trained to live in survival mode, to confuse chaos with connection, to confuse emotional slavery with love. But here's the shift. The sacred turning point. The moment you stop explaining, stop justifying, stop seeking permission to exist, you start to glow differently. You start to walk different, talk different, breathe different. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you've finally remembered who you are. You're no longer a puppet to emotions. You're no longer chasing people who can't even meet their own soul. You're no longer addicted to the performance of being the good guy. You are now sovereign. A man who governs himself. A man who doesn't need external validation to feel internal peace. A man who sets the tone, not responds to it. People won't understand it. They'll say, he's distant now. He's different. He thinks he's too good. But what they're really feeling is the echo of their own insecurity bouncing off your silence, because power that isn't begging to be noticed is the kind of power they fear. And make no mistake, they will feel it. They'll feel the shift in your energy. They'll feel the weight of your boundaries. They'll feel the distance between who you were and who you've become. You are no longer emotionally available to chaos, no longer enslaved by guilt, no longer apologizing for becoming your highest self. You are no longer an emotional slave. You are now a sovereign man, calm, clear, centered. You don't explain, you don't chase, you don't beg, you observe, you decide, you lead. This is your final form, not loud, not performative, just solid, rooted, unshakable. Let the world adjust to the new you, or let them fall behind. Either way, you're done going backward. Chapter 9. Stop chasing. Start choosing. Let this be the moment you remember who you are. You are not here to chase, not here to beg, not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are not a project needing validation. You are the selector, not the seeker. The world will try to convince you otherwise. They'll tell you to prove yourself, to compete, to fight for a seat at tables where you were never meant to sit, to lower your standards so you can be chosen. But that's not your destiny. You were not born to chase approval. You were born to choose access. Your time, sacred. Your energy, premium. Your presence, a gift. And your soul, off limits to the undeserving. You don't owe people your story. You don't owe them your attention. You don't owe them access to the depths of who you are just because they showed interest. Because the truth is brutal, brother. Your attention is currency, and you've been giving it away for free. To people who only call when they need something. To situations that drain you but feed their ego. To conversations where you explain yourself again and again, just to be seen. Stop. You are not an open book for anyone to flip through. You are a locked journal with golden pages. Rare, protected, sacred. And only those who have earned the key, through respect, consistency, and authenticity, only they deserve to read even one sentence of your soul. So stop chasing people who can't even see your value. Stop shrinking to be understood. Stop proving your worth to those who can't even hold their own. Start choosing. Start filtering. Start protecting your access like it's royal, because it is. The version of you that chases, exhausted, depleted, always seeking scraps of attention. But the version of you that chooses, empowered, unbothered, radiating peace. From this moment forward, you don't chase, you attract, and you don't beg. You become so grounded, so rare, so in alignment, that only the worthy even have the courage to approach. You are the prize. Act like it. Protect your energy like it's sacred ground, because it is. Chapter 10. Conscious rejection is a superpower. Here's the harsh truth most people run from. Sometimes the strongest thing you'll ever do is walk away from what you thought you couldn't live without. Sometimes the real power isn't in saying yes to what you want. It's in saying no to what you know isn't aligned with who you're becoming. You see, there comes a point on this journey where desire no longer drives you, discipline does. Where what you want isn't enough, because now you only accept what fuels your growth. That's where real men are born. The ability to consciously reject something or someone that once lit up your soul. Not because you don't care, but because you finally realized your peace is the real prize. Your growth is sacred, and your self-worth isn't negotiable anymore. Rejection isn't cruelty, it's clarity in action. It's the moment your higher self steps forward and says, "This might feel good now, but it's not what I need long term." It's easy to accept things that feel good. It's easy to hold on to old flames, old friends, old patterns, even when they're slowly killing your purpose. What's hard? Saying no to comfort and saying no to history, saying no to your own emotional hunger when it's begging for something that no longer fits your future. But that's where your sovereignty is born. That's when you rise from boy to man, from wounded to wise, from reactive to relentless. Because saying no isn't rejection of them, it's protection of you. And let this truth pierce deep. Not everything you lose is a loss, and not everything you want is worth having. When you learn to say no with calm, grounded authority, without guilt, without explaining, without shrinking, that's when you unlock true self-respect. So if it disturbs your peace, if it confuses your purpose, if it shrinks your self-worth, reject it. Walk away. Close the chapter. Even if your hands shake, even if your voice trembles. Because real power isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling what you allow into your life. You don't need everything that looks good. You need only what aligns with your higher self. And sometimes, the door to your next level only opens after you slam another one shut. Chapter 11. Self-control versus repression. Don't confuse silence with fear. Don't mistake calm for cowardice. And don't ever let the world convince you that your self-control is weakness. Because you're not quiet out of fear. You're quiet because you've outgrown the noise. You're not avoiding conflict because you're afraid to fight. You've simply realized that not every battle is worth your energy. There's a difference between repression and control. A massive one. Repression is fear-based. It's when you swallow your truth because you're scared of rejection, conflict, or discomfort. It's when you hold it all in, not because you've mastered it, but because you're afraid of what happens if you don't. But self-control? That's a choice. That's real strength. That's when you could respond, could explode, could match their chaos, but you don't. Not because you're incapable, but because your power doesn't need to prove itself. Self-control is the rarest form of dominance. It's invisible, it's silent, but it shifts the energy in any room you walk into. Because when a man masters himself, he no longer needs to conquer others. You're no longer reacting to everything and everyone. You're no longer triggered by petty drama or emotional games. You don't need to explain your silence, because your silence is the explanation. You've stopped fighting the world and started mastering the one battlefield that matters most, your mind. And that's the difference between men who are stuck and men who rise. The undisciplined man blames, the sovereign man builds, the reactive man explodes, the masterful man channels. You now understand that control over others is an illusion, but control over yourself, and that's real freedom. So keep your composure, keep your focus, keep your edge. Let them underestimate you. Let them think your silence is surrender, because when it's time to move, you won't make a sound, you'll just execute. Chapter 12. Active patience, the final weapon. Patience is not weakness, it's calculation. The immature react. The master waits, watches, strikes only when it's time. This is where true emotional intelligence lives. Your ego will beg to react. Let it burn. And when it stops screaming, you'll hear something deeper. Your power. Final chapter. The freedom after unreachability. There is a freedom that no one talks about, a type of liberation that doesn't come from money, fame, or applause. It comes from one single decision: to become unreachable, but not unreachable out of ego, not out of pride or bitterness. Unreachable from clarity, from peace, from self-respect. You see, something powerful happens when you stop answering every call, when you stop reacting to every trigger, when you stop giving access to people who only show up when they want to take. Your energy stops begging, it stops performing. It stops chasing validation from people who couldn't even recognize your worth if you screamed it in their face. And that shift, it changes everything. You begin to attract instead of chase. You begin to observe instead of react. You begin to feel peace, not because life is perfect, but because you're no longer addicted to chaos. The weak, they fall away. They can't feed on your energy anymore. They can't guilt you into staying small. They can't trigger you like before, because now your nervous system is protected by self-awareness. The manipulators, they lose their grip because their games no longer work. You've unplugged from the drama, you're no longer emotionally available to nonsense. And the real ones, they step forward. Because now, your presence requires depth. Now, your time requires intention. Now, your love requires maturity. You're not for everyone anymore, and that's your superpower. Because you've risen, calm, centered, unbothered. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about the right things. You don't connect from your wounds anymore, you connect from your wisdom. You don't speak from pain, you speak from power. You don't chase, you lead. This is the final form. This is the elevation you were always meant for. Not louder, not bigger, just clearer, more still, more focused, more magnetic. Because now you understand, the goal was never to be liked by everyone. The goal was to become so aligned that only what's meant for you can reach you, and everything else can't even find the frequency you vibrate on. Welcome to the freedom of unreachability. You've earned it. If this message lit something inside you, not just motivation, but a quiet fire, a realization that you've been too available, too open, too exposed, then now is your moment. Hit that like button, not just for the algorithm, but as a declaration, a signal to yourself and the world. I'm done being emotionally accessible to those who never earned me. Drop a comment below right now and write, I choose to be unreachable. Say it with power. Say it like you mean it. Let the world know that from this day forward your energy is sacred, your access is earned, and your peace is non-negotiable. Because this world doesn't need more people pleasers. It doesn't need more men trapped in emotional slavery. It needs self-mastered warriors. Men who don't chase, they choose. Men who don't beg, they build. Men who move with silence, with strategy, with strength. If that's you, then subscribe right now. Join the brotherhood, the circle of men who protect their peace, lead with clarity, and don't just exist. They dominate. We don't react to the world. We lead it. This was just the beginning. Welcome to the movement.